Does that also apply to like sports, the way that our country is so excited about football games and
In some
that
case,
idea?
in some cases, yes, not all, but in some cases, yes. Again, please, all of you remember, there are positive and negative aspects that are capable of being expressed in everything. So just remember that caveat, and you will be able to answer your own questions. It depends.
Okay, well, thank you for that. This person is saying they have a repeating pattern of getting into car accidents where someone else hits their car and they end up being injured. How can they break that cycle?
Well, this may require a deeper conversation with this individual on a specific basis, but obviously they are attempting to get their attention to a particular issue. They are, in a sense, not paying attention to something within them, and they are being constantly reminded by being stopped in this way. So there's something they have to investigate within their belief system, something they are avoiding that they need to look at and be honest about within themselves, because they are being shown that whatever the path is they are taking is not correct for them. And that's why they're running into so many quote unquote accidents, why other people are stopping them from going in the direction that they're going. There's something that they're not looking at within themselves that they're trying to tell themselves, and they're attracting a lot of people to do this so that they will finally pay attention ultimately to what it is going on within them that they need to pay attention to. We can't really say more about it here in a general public conversation. We would need to have an actual specific private conversation with this individual to explore the specific reasons of what it is they may not be looking at within themselves. But that's the general idea. There's something they're avoiding looking at. They're not paying attention to. There is something that they may be unconscious about or in denial about within themselves that's important for them to discover. They're not letting themselves move forward in life in a certain way.
Okay, and this is a question about detaching from the results. And this individual feels addicted to results and gets frustrated when an event turns out in a way that they don't prefer. And even though they intellectually understand detachment, they don't feel like they really have a full comprehension of how to achieve that.
Well, that's clear. So the idea is, again, they're not following the formula as precisely as possible because, again, no insistence, no assumption as to what the outcome ought to be. They're insisting on a certain result, which means they may actually be limiting the kind of result they could be getting if they were willing to be a little bit more flexible. They are insisting that they know best more than anything, more than their soul, more than their spirit guides, more than anyone. They know best as to what it is they should be experiencing. They don't. So they haven't really learned the honest truth yet that they really ultimately have no clue what the actual best result would be. And therefore, their stubborn insistence that they do know what the actual result should be and are therefore frustrated and disappointed when they don't get what they set out as the final result of their efforts, then they're simply not allowing their reality in any way, shape, or form to flow. They're not allowing their soul and higher mind and guides to deliver to them what it is they need. They're rejecting the idea of the way their life might unfold. They're completely trying to control every little detail. They're not relaxing. They're not surrendering to the control that's already built in to the life path their soul chose for this life. They are expressing a large amount of fear about not having control over every aspect and every detail of their lives. They need to relax and understand that surrender is not giving up control. It's surrendering to the natural flow of control that exists within them already, and they have to start trusting the way their life unfolds and open up to the possibility that something better than they imagined could actually be coming to them if they would give up insisting that what they have imagined should come to them is actually the best possible thing. It might actually be a limitation that they're imposing on themselves.
Okay, and this person says that they believe they're severely trauma bonded to another person. How do they break that bond and the cycle of rumination and low self-worth? They find it very debilitating.
Yes, well, of course they would, because they're not being their true self. It's always very tiring to be someone you're not. So the idea is stop mirroring the other person. What lessons can you have learned from the experiences you have had, and how can you positively apply them in your life to make your own choices rather than constantly thinking you have to mirror what is going on with the other person that you feel bonded to? Remember that all people are in your life to act as reflective mirrors to help you learn the lessons that help you become more of who you truly prefer to be. You don't have to succumb to the idea of the actual experience. You have to find the lessons in the experience that can be applied in your life in more positive ways to allow you to move forward and grow and not necessarily experience the same things over and over again. So, of course, it's debilitating if you're only going to lock into the actual traumatic experience itself instead of focusing on what could it teach you how not to do things in the future in the same way. What could it teach you about choosing different things and different ways of looking at yourself in the future instead of judging yourself so unkindly and so harshly for having had the initial experience? You are ruminating and stuck in a cycling loop of simply judging yourself over and over again for having had the traumatic experience instead of saying, oh, well, this experience exists for me to learn some lessons. Let's explore what those lessons could be that I can apply in my life to move forward in my life and detach from the idea that I have to keep mirroring the experience I had with that person and repeating that experience, because that means I'm simply afraid to learn the lessons, and that would help me move forward.
Since the issue of self-worth is such a strong theme that we see in our questions a lot, when does this position or this perspective of not being worthy enter? Is it in the womb? Does it happen later? I know it's individualized, but
It's
is there
always part of the
something?
life path set up by the soul, then the circumstances and conditions that are necessary to fix that, crystallize that, come from the upbringing that is chosen, so that it will be the challenge that you need to face. But it's set up by the soul as a challenge on the life path. How you allow yourself to achieve that challenge, how you set yourself up with whatever belief systems or experiences you have that freeze that or crystallize that challenge that your soul has chosen to experience, happens when you become physical and start absorbing the experiences of the physical reality that are utilized to reinforce the choice made by the soul to have a challenging experience of that kind.
So since like a lot of aggression, a lot of anger that people experience is coming from that basic position of not feeling worthy at a very deep level,
Yes.
would you say that in a sense that is the theme that was given to planet Earth and that that's why we face so many of the challenges that we do as a planet getting along with each other
Well,
because
yes,
of
in a sense, it's
that
certainly one of the major themes. As we have said, the idea of the Earth's cycles is the transformation of darkness into light, negative into positive, limitation into freedom, and certainly the recognition of your worthiness and deservability is an expression of those themes. It all comes from the idea of the extreme density of the frequency of the earth school, in the idea that it allows you to feel a sense of disconnection, a sense of detachment from source by completely forgetting, by creating an experience, not that you actually can be disconnected, not that you can be detached, but by creating such a dense experience of disconnection, as if you actually are disconnected from source to the point where you don't even know that you are connected at all, then creates the idea of, well, if I'm disconnected from source, if I am, quote unquote, cast out from source, because you have to recognize that you do exist. So if the sense of detachment and disconnection is strong enough, yet you still recognize that you exist, then this is an issue that many of you talk about, that we have just recently talked about, of one that feels like abandonment by source, that you are cast out from source, disconnected, thrown away, and therefore not deserving, not worthy, because you can't feel the connection, even though you know and you can sense by the fact of your existence that source exists. There had to be a creation that you're part of. There had to be, in a sense, your existence coming in as somewhat necessary, but then the experience of disconnection makes you feel that, oh, I must have made a mistake in creating you. I have cast you out. You are undeserving and unworthy, and I'm disconnecting, I'm disowning you, I'm abandoning you. And therefore, all that comes up in that feeling of unworthiness. I have been cast aside. But if you understand that creation doesn't make mistakes, that you absolutely are necessary in creation, or you wouldn't have been created at all, you wouldn't exist at all, then you can start to reclaim your connection, your attachment to source, and your worthiness and deservability by understanding how existence works. And that existence needs everything that exists in order for it to be all that it is, all that it can experience itself to be. So if you exist, then by the fact of your existence, you are worthy and deserving, because obviously, if creation didn't need you, you wouldn't exist, because it doesn't make mistakes. You are part of existence itself. You are part of the very fabric of existence. And that means, by definition, your existence is proof that you're worthy and deserving of that existence. And that's always a place you can start from.